So on this car, we're going to actually put on the EV14 connector directly onto the factory harness. I like to do it this way, better quality control. These are really handy, and it's nice if you need to go back to stock. And a lot of cars you do, but sometimes you might get a bad connection, an intermittent connection with some of this stuff because the pins move around. And since we are putting fuel rails on this application, we don't have quite as much area to kind of stuff these guys in there. So to have less issues, we are basically crimping on new pins, and so I like to do that whenever I can, especially if you are going to be going down the rabbit hole of forced induction. You've made the commitment so far, right? So might as well make it a little nicer with your own connectors and crimps. So with the right tools and some experience, it's pretty effortless and a cleaner job. I take a little rubber booty, put them down. I like to keep the pin out the same between all of them. Remove the fuel pump assembly from the car. Use some air to blow out debris in the top. There's a lot of dirt, dust, and cobwebs sometimes, so roll that out to try and have a nice clean area to work in so we don't get all that debris going inside the fuel tank. Remove this little clip that keeps the rod from coming out, and next we'll disconnect onto the new connector. We'll save all this stuff here and just take our razor blade quickly. We are going to be reusing the rods, so we'll do that at the next step. We got to remove these rods from the plastic hat around this stuff. Now we're going to separate the fuel pump housing from the basket itself, just like that. There's just two clips. Pre-filter of the sock of the fuel pump as well. That's why you have these, because it acts as a filter for the fuel pump. It's first line of defense. We'll remove this out of the way. All the stuff we're going to reuse. It's very important. Remove the sock, and same thing here. We can cut this fuel line down. I'm not going to use that. And then you see our little baby fuel pump is in there. So you can see the wiring is relatively small. So we're going to be upgrading the wiring inside the assembly and on the outside as well. Okay. I'm going to take my needle nose, just twist the pump out of there. It's kind of like a locking mechanism in here. So this portion is going to get cut out. We're not going to use it, and you can do that just with a set of cutters, these bad boys, and we're just going to go in there and cut it out. The purpose of this is so that our larger pump fits in there. So this is junk. You can toss this out. Make sure we get it relatively flush. So you'll end up with something like this. Since we're going with the return fuel system, we're no longer going to be using the filter. The factory filter, many people don't know this, the filter is inside of this canister. And the pump has the outlet, it goes in, but it really isn't meant to handle alcohol fuels. But we're going to get rid of this, and we're going to cut this. This is going to do two things. We're going to remove the assembly that's inside of it, and it's going to give us the room to fit the upgraded Walbro fuel pump. You're just going to cut right below the regulator, and it does make a bit of a mess. The filter media, how nasty it is, pretty dirty, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to clean up. This is trash. We're not going to use this bottom half. It goes in the trash. And the next bit is we're going to clean all these rough edges and remove the paper assembly out of here. So they basically glue it to the ends of the assembly here. So it gets a little tricky, but we're going to do our best to get most of this stuff out. And you can kind of see that stuff. It's just literally like paper cardboard, nothing fancy. I'm just going to make a line as a reference. We're going to cut the regulator out. By doing so, we have to cut the top of the assembly out. So just kind of to give you an idea, it's going to be something like that. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to get it as clean as you can. And then once we get this top cover off, we can pop the regulator out. All right, and there it is. Easy peasy. We'll clean off all these edges and the burrs, and then we'll give this whole assembly a really good cleaning. We definitely don't want to have any of that in our fuel system. Pop the regulator assembly out. You'll see that you have an O-ring, a plastic nylon spacer. We're not going to reuse any of that, so this is just trash. And there you go. So you'll notice that there's a small little O-ring in there. Make sure you remove it. You're not going to reuse any of the factory stuff. The CJ adapter is going to have everything we need. We've got that cleaned up. I also like to remove these barbs. This is going to make it easier to get fuel to the engine. So we're going to cut these off. This is totally optional, something we do here. And then we're going to open the holes up a little bit. All right, we're going to put it in the parts washer that we have. And get this bad boy nice and cleaned up, make it look like it's new again. Rinse it off with water. If you don't rinse it off with water, it'll leave a residue, like a haze on the part. So this is our assembly. It's all clean, it's ready to go, and we're ready to go on to the next step of the install. So this is the Walbro 450 fuel pump, 274. Lately, I like to use the Walbro 520s, but this pump is good for easily 650 wheel. If it's supercharged, you won't get as much, but you can see why we cut the whole assembly. Is I like to call it the bell bottom Walbro. You can see that the Walbro has a bigger bottom, but it's just going to sit just like that inside of that. All right, guys. So this is part of the CJ kit, and this is our regulator delete. So that little piece that we got rid of, this guy is going to go in there, okay? And then this is the line that's going to attach to it and to the new fitting that's going to be at the top of the assembly. So there it is. So we're going to remove these two Allens, and then we will put some gunk on the O-rings so it seats in nicely. We don't want to tear those, and then we'll attach it to the socket. All right. So now that we've got the bolts removed, it's just going to seat in there, just like factory again. So let's lubricate the O-rings. I like to use the royal purple engine assembly stuff. We just need a little bit, nice little coating on there. And this is very important because you can snag these O-rings, and then twist as it goes in. Boom, just like that. And then it's ready for its little bracket assembly. All right, so we're going to put our bracket in, use the hardware. All right, it doesn't have to be super, super tight. Hardware is small, snug it up, just like that. And there you go. Getting the rest of our billet hat set up.